What's up, everybody? Welcome to episode 49 of the Coffee Club podcast. Back again. We're all here in Europe now, which is pretty sweet. George and I here in St. Moritz, reunited, and Olli also in Switzerland over at Lausanne. How's everyone feeling after these boys just got in yesterday?
Yes,
So
that 5 mile run yesterday was one of the hardest runs of my life, probably. Did you
Fucking
get a jog in, Ollie?
yeah, I did 5 with Monson and it was pretty tough. But the views here have been beautiful, so it's been able to counterweight the feeling of being shit, and then just the beauty of where we are in Switzerland is okay, it looks nice, and I can get through the 5 mile run of pain after the flights.
Yeah, that also helped in St. Moritz, actually. I was like, I can run on this beautiful freaking trail for half an hour. That's fine. And then jump in the lake. That's not the worst thing in the world.
It's not the worst thing in the world.
Switzerland is crazy. It's honestly, you think it's just in the movies or it's played up, and then it's just the most beautiful place in the world, and you understand why the people are so freaking, I don't know, uppity. Like, they don't give a fuck about anything else. They don't want to be part of Europe or whatever. They're just like, Switzerland is the best. I'm like, yeah, it kind of is the best. It's just so beautiful. It's so pretty here, and we'll take advantage of that. Thank you very much on running Swiss brand, Swiss engineering. So
Swiss engineering.
Here to stay.
So to start off, we talked. I think we did most of the talk about Euros last time. We don't have too much more to say on that, I don't think. But we'll close up our recap, because if you remember, we finished the last episode pretty much right
before Mario raced.
Yeah, I remember finishing the episode, and luckily there was a 30-minute rain delay at the meet because it was storming there, and then I had a bit of time to breathe and get settled before watching it. But it was literally bang bang. And then the race, we had a collective prediction that Mario was going to win, Jakob second, Haywood. I think we say Haywood third?
I think Ollie said
a UK
any British runner.
Yeah, any British runner.
I think you said Haywood. Haywood was top of the list.
Haywood or Neil were going to be the ones where I thought they would take some silverware.
Yeah, and then the way the race played out, I mean, once again, Jakob just put the mixed squeeze on the field and has just showed how fucking good he is at running, pretty much. It was so clinical. I mean, did you guys get to watch it?
Yeah. The stream was good, actually. Jakob looked in better shape at Europeans than at Worlds. I don't know how that's possible.
I agree.
But
he looked he looked way more relaxed.
I feel apparently he's been just getting better and better. Apparently he wasn't going to race Lausanne, and then he's like, oh, I feel really good, so I'm going to race it. So I guess, he's been feeling pretty good lately.
Yeah,
Mario said it was windy and raining, spray everywhere. And Jakob can just jog 3:32 in there.
Yeah, the man's done it before. He can do it again.
Yeah,
he's just so good in all conditions.
Mario ended up third, which obviously great for the OAC. It was one of those ones where, and he told me he was going to do this beforehand. He was just trying to win. He really wanted to beat Jakob. And so he just went and sat on Jakob the whole time and went along for the ride, so to speak. And then in the last 100 or whatever it was, Haywood could go around him, because I think Haywood raced it a little more conservatively, I would say.
Yeah.
He wasn't quite as gung-ho about it. So, I mean, overall for those guys, still everyone it was amazing performances. It was kind of weird that, did you guys notice after that it was carnage at the back? Europeans is very deep in the 1500, but in that race it was pretty big separation for what is essentially a perfectly paced 3:32 race. If you think about it, Jakob, I think he went through in 1:54, maybe 1:53, but pretty perfect pacing. Absolute carnage behind him. So I don't know if people are tired or what.
I didn't pay much attention after Mario.
A lot of championship racing. I spoke to Neil Gooley and Jake Haywood. They're here in Lausanne. We had a coffee this morning, bonding, having a great time. And they kind of said that everyone's just tired from championship racing. I think particularly the UK athletes going through world champs, Commonwealth Games, and then Europeans. It's you go through the same kind of, maybe physically you're okay, but mental capacity of just teeing up for those championships is quite a lot. And I think in general, a lot of those European athletes were probably feeling a little bit of a bit of tiredness from Worlds, or just end of season kind of vibes of just mentally trying to get yourself there. And I mean, personally, like when we watch Mario in the heat, the last 100 looked quite tough for him. Usually he's pretty relaxed and pretty composed. And I think like it's just like, it's been a long season, and a lot of those guys are probably just a little bit more tired than what they could be or they could have been earlier in the season. Because if you had Europeans like before Wells, I reckon it would have been like it's such a different race. And yeah, just the way that the Europeans after comms, after world champs, a lot of racing for those boys. But in general, it was a lot more, yeah, you're right, Morgan, like a lot more carnage at the back than you'd expect. You do usually expect a lot of those European guys who have run 332 in multiple races just to be like lined up, ready to strike in that last like 400, 300 meters. So it was pretty interesting, actually.
Yeah. And yeah, as we said, Jakob reigned supreme. I'm just going to close this window. So it was overall Euros recap, I think, as we mentioned last week, as we said we expected beforehand, similar to Com Games, electric atmosphere out there. From everything that I've heard, crazy stands, like field stands, crazy fans, and just going crazy. And especially it was in Germany, and there's some really big German performances winning. They won a bunch of stuff, like the women's 100, and then they won the 4x1. Like I think that was maybe the last race of the meet or something. It was like classic, like hometown.
Coco's 5,000.
Okay, Coco's 5,000 was crazy.
That was to do that at a home Europeans.
Yeah, I suppose like coming off
pretty impressive
for her. She's had a relatively more, I'm not gonna say a quiet year, but she like gets after it normally. She hasn't seemingly quite been in that form this year, and then it was not easy competition in that European race. There was some other like amazing athletes, and then she just took it and got the dub. And I think you could tell like with the emotion that she was feeling after winning it. That was huge. Almost probably, I mean, obviously not as cool as your win at the Com Games, Ollie, but in a similar fashion of like
gotta make sure that mine's still at the top.
Oh, dude, that's always gonna be at the top.
I was talking to the boys from the UK boys about like Munich and stuff, like the after party afterwards. They said Europeans was wild. Like, I mean, we've all been to Munich. Like, Munich's such a cool city, and they said the nightlife there was like amazing. They just went out and just went hard, and like apparently it was just such a great city to host Europeans. They did such a great job, which now brings me back to the carnage of Eugene, because when you talk about trying to improve the sport, make the sport better, I think Europe in this point of time is just ticking all the boxes. Like Birmingham, what they did for comms was incredible for the sport, and now Munich, what they've done. Like I remember watching like the first couple of days, and like there was like this stand was pretty like packed, but it wasn't great. Like it was pretty empty seats for a lot of the heats. But then when it came to the finals and I saw that, I was like, wow, like this is a massive Olympic stadium and it's almost pretty much full. So like doing that for them, like it's just like, why couldn't they fill up Eugene, and why couldn't they have this much hype for world champs in America? It just kind of ticks the boxes of like, okay, well, Munich's a massive it's a great city. They're able to get probably the tickets that apparently weren't that expensive, and people were just enjoying like being a part of like that kind of atmosphere, like the hype up and everything. And it just shows you like the difference between, I guess, the Europeans is putting it into those type of situations, and then like the American kind of domestic system is kind of slagging behind a little bit with getting those, like, because the fan engagement is definitely in the US. It's just get a stadium and get a location that you could potentially, like Munich, I reckon it would happen in the US as well, looking at it now, because Europeans they're killing it with the track. Like it's just amazing. And Lausanne is apparently sold out. So it's going to be exciting to be able to run in Europe again. And I'm sure for Rovereto, like that's going to be a stacked 5K where you guys are going to have great fan engagement. And yeah, it's just going to be nice running in Europe and having that kind of atmosphere. So Europeans just did an amazing job with that. And the boys definitely said that it was one of the best. I feel
like we've talked about this before, and you're 100% right. I feel like in Europe, they do a better job of getting non-track fans to go to track meets. Like Eugene is known as track town, and it's full of track nerds, and the people going to the meet are like massive track fans, which you always need in the sport. But I feel like the difference in Birmingham, and I assume also in Munich, is that they're bigger cities and you get more regular people that want to just go have a sweet night of probably a bunch of beers and like some good sport and good atmosphere and stuff. Like in Munich and Birmingham, there was like fireworks and like stadium engagement and stuff where I feel like in the US they just expect it to just be track nerds. There's not enough of those. You need like regular people too that want to have a good time.
You know
100%.
what's actually
you need the.
You know what's interesting on that point, which was unique to Europeans this year, is that normally European athletics is just an athletics carnival, but Munich hosted like simultaneously they hosted like swimming and triathlon European champs and rowing. Like,
I was wondering if that was normal or not.
It's not normal, but they decided to do it this year, and I think it would have had a lot of success because even one of the other girls here, she's like, yeah, I went to Europeans for a bit. I saw like some of the triathlon. I saw like all these other events, and then I went to the track as well. So pretty sweet that they did that, and that definitely helped. And the other thing that like comes to my mind is just how easy it is to get to Munich compared to America. And this is a problem that I think is it's just like geographical. I don't know what you can do about this, but like America is just so big. Europe is just comparatively so small. It's really good public like train system and all that to get to Munich. So you can come from all these different countries easily to get in. So it just makes it way better. So I don't know.
That is true. But there's also massive stadiums in the US that they fill every single week for every other sport.
Yeah, but that's different because that's not people traveling.
Yeah, that's true. It's
as
true.
Much.
Well, that's why they should just not have it in small towns, like Olli always says.
Yeah, no, it's true. But kind of moving on from that, Olli is obviously in Lausanne, which is in the. I don't even know. Is that the other side of Switzerland from where we are? I don't really know how Switzerland works.
It is the French side. The wee.
Oh, it is.
Yeah, that's cool actually side. Italian, but
I heard
the French side.
Does that mean the coffee's better?
Yeah, I went to this place called Lazy Bear. So I got like a tram up to it. It's like literally 2 minutes, and they serve it in this little. I don't know if you've seen my story, boys, but they serve in this little like like a wooden box and a beautiful like ceramic made, like handmade mug, like a flat white, and it was just amazing. It was really good coffee, and so I'll be going there tomorrow before the race and hanging out and stuff. It was pretty quiet, pretty chill there. You can definitely like Switzerland is crazy because like when we're in St. Moritz, you guys will probably experience like it's more Romanian kind of speaking and a bit more German. Whereas down here, it's all French. They all speak French. Everything's in French.
Romanian. I was wondering if we were going to let that slide or not.
Last time we went down to
there is a local dialect which is Romanji, I think.
Romanji.
I think Romanish. It's German and Italian speaking here. But I carry on.
Well, I'm just saying the people that I ran into in St. Moritz when I was here earlier, they all spoke that Romanish that you mentioned. I didn't get to see that many German speaking people, unfortunately. Maybe I was just in the different places that you guys at, but it's definitely like it's crazy with Switzerland because it's so different. You know, you get French speaking on this side, and then you got German, Italian on one side, and it's pretty diverse, honestly.
So it makes you feel fucking stupid finally speaking English.
Well, yeah, because like I went to the coffee shop and she this lady, it was a beautiful lady, just goes bonjour like really nicely, and I was like, oh fuck, I was like hello, and she's like, and then she goes, what do you want? And I was like, could I get a flat white, please? And she just nodded and then made the flat white, beautiful flat white. And then she's like, you're paying by cash or card? I was like, card. And then she just looked at me and just put the card out. And I said, thank you. And she just nodded. And then I was like, fuck.
She probably spat in the bottom of your cup.
If I spoke French there, man, I would have got a nice, like, she probably would have given me an extra coffee and asked me how my day was and everything. Other than that, she just thought I was English speaking. And you're like, oh, this guy's a simpleton.
I was saying that to Jared on the run this morning. I was trying to say hi to all the European runners on the way past, but because Olli has this thing where he counts people that say hi back to him, and it was not going well this morning. They were not being very friendly.
Dude, I beat you in the other count before we left.
And I was just saying to Yard, I was like, they probably just think we're dumb English-speaking Americans / just normal. And then, but it turns out Yard actually minded in Italian, so he should have been hitting all these people up.
Okay, because that's the thing. Like the weird thing with St. Moritz is it's 20% Italian speaking here. So Italian is very common, really? Especially for like the people that work at the shops and stuff here. So if you just throw out a lot of chows, like chow, that'll take you pretty far.
Chow gets you pretty far. It really does.
So,
little Italian lesson. I did not know Italian. That's so weird.
I'd probably fuck that up. I'd probably be like, chow, chai. No, I want a chai latte. But how's because I know Tinfoil Elite up there. How's Sam Parsnips going and the squad up there? Because it's obviously it seems like Boulder's kind of just moved from there to St. Moritz and Parsnips and the gang of Tinfoil Elite are really getting some good training with the OEC guys out here.
Tinfoil Elite is not here. It's just Sam Parsons.
Oh, it's just Parsnips?
Yeah, Drew and Joey raced in Finland last night, and then they also have Max with them, and that's the only people from the gang which traveled over. So Sam's doing well though, coming off a 6th place at Euros. Actually, he's been a little sick, so I don't know. I don't know. We'll see if I think he's still going to race the 5K, but everyone's been doing pretty well over here. It's way more relaxed here than it was when I first got here. Before, it was craziness. There were so many people at the track. Now it's pretty chill. Honestly, OAC very prominent in St. Moritz right now, which
heavy presence
is kind of cool, I guess. Run this place, run this town.
People
was it Cole Hocker was racing in Finland?
Yeah, that was a curveball to me.
Did you see there's a post where he's like, yeah, people overuse the term rustbuster, and then he posted nice rustbuster in Finland.
So I that was so funny. That no context track picked that up as 2 separate things, but he literally posted those at the same time. So he posted them back to back. So he's making a joke of it. I thought initially that they had been months apart and they were making fun of him, but no, they're just playing along with the joke. But still pretty funny. I mean, good to see him back
hilarious.
Racing.
Dude, honestly, Cole, that made me laugh so hard. I respect that so much. That was cheeky.
Must have listened to some Coffee Club.
He must have, man. But
he knows that I call him Hulk Hocker, and he knows I call Cooper Teardrop because he was mimicking me in a New Gen video, and I thought it was quite a good mimic actually. It was a bit British, but I was very flattered.
Close enough.
So good to see him back racing, killing it as he should be, and that was a really funny. I really enjoyed those stories.
Yeah, we're supposed to be previewing your damn race tomorrow. Stop getting distracted.
Oh yeah.
All right, here's what I got. Really tough. I got to do pre-meet in an hour, but
what's the race plan tomorrow?
The race plan tomorrow is to get. I don't know. Well, I guess so. Stewie's here, so he's usually a one-trick pony, but you never know. He could just chill out for a bit and then try and push it maybe halfway through the race. But I expect it to, depending on the weather, it's supposed to rain, so it could be shitty conditions, could be a bit windy. For a guy my size, I can't really hide behind anyone except for my my muse, Jakob. So I'll probably try and stay behind those guys for most of the race. If I can get good positioning, that'd be fantastic. And then, from Birmingham, I've got pretty good confidence that the last 100, if I reserve some energy there, I could come home with a good finish. So I'm going to try and do the same thing. But maybe if I feel good at a certain time and I think instinct tells me to go, I'll go earlier. But right now, I think if I stay at the front and try and stay composed and stay near the heavy hitters, then I could become one. So that's the plan. And then Beery's afterwards, maybe go for a swim with my my speedos on with Jakob. Yeah. I haven't seen him yet.
But, skinny dip? A skinny dip in the lake with Jengi?
Little skinny dip and sauna.
That'd be nice.
Yeah, so I don't know. Really we'll see, but I'm pretty excited for it. Races at 8:30 my time in Europe. I think Alicia's running at 8:43 in the 3K. She's feeling pretty good. So I think Elise Croney is going for the American record. So if Monson can show down that party, that would be pretty crazy. But they're going to be running really fast in that 3K. They paced it to, I think.
Sorry, that just reminded. What did we read yesterday in that Lausanne preview? The race itself is offering $30,000.
Oh, $30,000 for the American. Yeah,
for breaking an American record.
Specifically the American record.
Specifically an American record.
Wow.
Just the meet is paying $30,000.
That's pretty sick, honestly.
Hence, Elise showing up.
That's pretty cool. I guess that's what it takes. Throw some money and you'll have a lot of excitement.
The big upset if Alicia actually just broke it instead. Dude, beat Elise. That would be legendary.
That could happen.
That would be pretty cool.
Yeah. But on one thing that I just thought of, which might be weird to say, just when you were talking about your race, Ollie, And one thing we should say is this is probably one of the most stacked fields of the year. I mean, there's been a lot of really good 1500 meter fields, but this has a lot of really, really good guys in it. I feel like so many people probably have a race plan, which is something along the lines of sit on Jakob. But I feel like, I don't know why, but I feel like you have the most right to sit on him. I don't know if you feel the same way. I feel like
there's a hierarchy.
There is a hierarchy, and I think like people will be like, I want to sit on Jakob, but I think that's Olli's spot. Maybe I'll try sit on Olli.
Yeah. Mate. There's no spots. Like obviously, in my personal view, like I respect all those athletes on that field. It's a really good field, and like there's gonna be a lot of guys that could upset. Like there's a lot of winners in that race. Like if they race for white, they could win. Like I think like it's not. There's some depth there, and and I definitely think that if I can get in that position, I'll try to. But I wouldn't be surprised if like there'll be some fight for that spot. And like if Stewie gets to the front and then I'm behind Stewie, I mean that's not a bad position either, to be honest. Like Stewie's ran 7:31 in Stockholm, and if I'm behind him and not behind Jakob, like Jakob could just go to the back. If he goes to the back, I'm not going to go behind him at the back. I'm going to stay at the front because I don't want to like move up in a field that's probably going to be running quick, So
yeah,
who knows? But yeah, you're right. Like a lot of people are going to be like, I want that spot, And with Stewie, it was like Stewie last year. I think everyone wanted the spot behind Stewie because he was the one that was pulling people along and getting them to run pretty insane times. So you're 100% right. So it'll be interesting to see how the race plays out because it is a very deep field, and I feel like there's a lot of guys there that can cause some upsets to some other guys. So should be fun.
Is Whiteman racing or no?
Mm-mm.
Jake is not. He's actually done for 1500s for the year. He's going to run the 800 Diamond League final, and then Fifth Ave. So
very cool.
We should mention that there's also an OAC matchup. Mario. Romo.
Yeah.
Who also has some experience in behind Jakob.
Yeah. This is for all the marbles. Whoever doesn't beat the other person, if Mario beats me, then I have to sleep outside. If I beat Mario, he has to sleep outside. So
yeah.
But I think Mario should be going in with a lot of confidence because he's fourth at Worlds. He probably believes that he could beat Jakob or be the one to win the race tomorrow. So
yeah, he's very confident. He's a little tired, but he's just in that place where I think it doesn't really matter. He's like, man, I'm so fucking tired. I just want to not that he wants to be done, but he's just like achieved so much this season that he's very content. But it's an interesting one for him because this will be his last race unless he does something really like crazy in it that gets him enough points to make the Diamond League final, which would pretty much be winning maybe top 3. I'm not sure how many points it's going to take to make the final, but yeah, if he kills it, he'll have another race, but if not, he'll just be partying after it. So it's pretty cool. Win-win, I guess.
Definitely well earned
for sure.
Yeah, definitely well earned for him too.
Yeah. So that's Lausanne. I don't really know what other events are happening there. Obviously, the women's 3K will be a big one as well, but I'm sure it'll be an amazing meet as all the Diamond Leagues are. Moving on from that, the race that George and I are competing in is on next Tuesday, the 31st. Is that the 30th or the 31st?
30th. I
think. 30th? One of those ones. And it's in Rovereto, which is a town in Italy, which you raced at last year, right?
I did. Yeah, it's a cool meet. Very cool town. Ran a 3K there last year, but there is not a 3K there this year.
5K. Going for the 5K.
Just doing another one. I haven't done enough, apparently.
Dude.
I'm blown away by how many 5Ks I ran this year. I can't believe I'm doing another one, honestly.
It is impressive.
Hey, there's no issue matchup in that one as well.
Who is it?
It's you two.
Do you want to come race him?
Dude, why don't we go do a coffee club race off when we all race in the same race? That'll be fun.
Let's
get a coffee
club.
Coffee club matchup.
If Mo just came to Fifth Ave, we could make it happen.
Yeah, but I mean, I'm still on the fence with Fifth Ave as well, bruv.
No. So I'm going to bully him into doing it.
All right. Yeah, I'm getting bullied by the other guys as well. But yeah, so Rovereto, what's the date for that for everyone? Can you watch it?
Well, we just said it. I don't know if you're listening, Ollie, but 30th, next Tuesday.
Can I watch it?
Probably not.
I can watch it, right?
Maybe. You could come and watch it in person, I suppose, if you would like
watch
to.
It, yeah.
Come watch your boy Jingy in person.
Oh, dude, I don't.
Is Jingy running it?
I'm only gonna believe he's there when I see him.
Yeah. So we heard, or Ritz said that someone told him that Jakob was racing this 5K, which I'm just like, why would he race this 5K? He could race Brussels Diamond League 5K a few days later. Maybe he will, but these European races sometimes are tough. The Diamond Leagues are pretty easy because, they set the fields for those generally at a decent amount of time before it, and you have a good idea of who's doing it. But these more low-key meets, maybe we could look it up and the start list will be out there, but you don't really know who's going to be there racing until you get there. You just hear little whispers. And so the ones that I'm confident are racing is Yemen Cripper, who just won. He actually had a great Europeans as well. He was third in the 5K and then won the 10K after that. And apparently he's trying to break 13, which is pretty sweet. He's a pretty good runner, so I think he can do it. And he's Italian, so it's a bit of a home meet for him.
This sounds very reminiscent of Rovereto last year, though.
Is that what you heard?
There were whispers that Cripper was coming to Rovereto and getting paid to go for the Italian 3K record. And then when we got there, everyone was saying, "Oh yeah, Cripper's actually just been partying the last few weeks. He's super out of shape." And then he goes and runs 7:55 or something. So I wouldn't be surprised if he just won 2 medals at Europeans.
Yeah, shit. That doesn't sound
good. He was in Munich too. He was in Munich too, so you can tell for a fact he was having a good time.
Yeah. So I guess there goes
maybe both. He could be doing both, but he was supposed to be the last year to run super fast, and he was really far back.
Well,
but we'll see. We'll see about that.
But so Sam Parsons is racing it, and he's going to have Drew Hunter pacing him, and I think he wants. I don't actually know what he wants. I think it's somewhere between 7:55 and 8 minutes. So at the very least, that's decent pacing. So I'm hoping it's a quick race. I'm just going to go out there and try to run really quick, try to run a PB, just say, fuck it, pull an Olli Hall, just leave it all out there. So
hell yeah, brother.
Yeah. I don't know. Not much else to say about a race like that, apart from we're going to go do it.
Yeah, we're going to go do it.
Go tick it off.
So, yeah, I feel like that's it for that one. I don't think that one will be quite as easy to watch because the streaming for those, I don't know, maybe if you check, I think it's watchathletics.com, you might be able to find the stream for it, but who knows?
It's usually pretty random, eh?
Yeah. So, yeah, all the boys are racing, though, which is cool. I don't think we've actually, had a week yet where we've all raced together.
No, I think it's the first one.
Yeah, I think it was meant to happen at World Champs, and then I pulled out of that one. So I think this will be the first one, which would be pretty cool. So hopefully we'll get good results, and we come back and we have a big celebration next week when we're all up in St. Moritz. I think we'll all be together for the next podcast, I hope at least. But yeah, so that's kind of what's going on with us for this week. Moving on, one of the things that we want to talk a little bit more is the standards, which I think George brought this up right coming off World Champs when we heard the whispers of what the standards were going to look like. And now they're official. I think they're official. And they've got some people talking. I don't think it's anything too crazy based on how quick everyone's been running and based on the knowledge that World Athletics wants 50% of the times, the qualifiers, to be times, and the other 50% to be rankings. It's once you know that's their objective, then it's pretty obvious how things are going to go. So the standards for Worlds now are 3:34, which is not that crazy, and then 13:07 for the 5K and 27:10 for the 10K, which that one blows my mind. I'm like,
27:10's quick.
10K one's insane. The other two maybe a second to 2 seconds slower than we thought they could be at their fastest. Mm-hmm. But it makes sense because the 10K is the smallest field at Worlds. The field's half the size. And so of the field that's already half the size it means they only expect 12 people in the world to run that time.
Yeah. So it does make sense when you think about it like that.
Kind of does.
The women's ones are 4:35. These sound really similar to what they were last time. The 800 women's one is
the 800 is actually gotten slower.
It's gone slower. Yeah,
it used to be 159.5, and it's actually got slower to 159.8.
Yeah,
which is crazy because everything else is way faster. But it makes sense because, I think we were saying that in the 800, not a single male qualified on rankings, but 30 women qualified on rankings in the 800 because the standard was so hard. So they've brought it back.
Yeah, bit of recalibration, if you will. And then 4:35 and 14:57 and 30:40 for the women's 10K, which is also Crazy.
40 is crazy.
But yeah, how do we feel about these rankings, guys?
Well, there's another thing that they released that I was more pissed off about.
You know how he's going to feel about it.
But I honestly think the way that they're trying to do it makes sense. However, I don't think that's how the sport works. Like, everyone wants to get the time, right? Everyone wants that time because it's a very, very secure position to be in. So if you have a time like that, people are going to currently chase it, which means that they're trying to limit people to doing time trials, so they race more races, do more ranking, more points, stuff like that. But people are just going to try and go to those Haywood Magic, Jerry Shoemaker time trial races. They're trying to get in those and try and run the time. Like, it's just going to be the same as last year. It's just going to be a harder time to hit, and people are just going to do the same thing. They're not really changing the way that the sport is, really, by just putting these times, making them quicker. I believe it's just going to be the same, where people are just going to try and hammer, get into those time trial races that Bauman can kind of control and try and run the time. Whereas I think what they're trying to do is they're trying to get more of these other events, like for example, what was that US gold label event that no one turned up to? Do you remember that event? It was in Mount Sac.
Mount Sac one.
Yeah. The Mount Sac one. So, for example, they're probably trying to push more people to go to those events to get more points, to create much more of a bigger atmosphere, to get more big players in there. But really, people aren't going to do that. They're going to prefer to not get the points, go to a Jerry Shoemaker Invitational, and try and run the time. Even if they don't run it, they're going to try and do it. So I don't believe it's going to change anything, really. I know World Athletics are trying to create something where they're going to have, hopefully, to dilute other races and put other bigger heavy hitters into these gold label events, that they can create more of an atmosphere. I don't believe it's going to work. I think they're just going to go straight to the time trial stuff that Jerry does, or to sound running, try and get the time, and then that's it. Go to the respective national championship trials. So that's how I feel about it.
That just reminded me about that sound running thing. Apparently there was a thing with the standards that you can't run a standard at any meet.
Oh, that was just for certain countries.
Oh, those are certain countries?
Yeah, there are certain
I thought
countries.
It was like a meet had to be a certain level.
There's like certain countries which are on like the sus list. I don't know what it's officially called, but I think it's like the sus list. Where they don't trust their performance, their results from meets sometimes, which is kind of crazy to think about. So I think, I'm not sure how it works exactly, but I think if you're from one of those countries, you have to do it in a meet that has a certain level of certification. So that's not for everyone. That'd be really shitty if that was for everyone.
I thought it was because I hadn't really read. I thought it was had to be minimum bronze label or something race, which would cut out all the sound running ones.
That'd be pretty funny.
Which would be crazy.
Yeah.
But I think
suck for
they used to pace races at 13:22 because that was the standard, and then they paced races at 13:13 because that was the standard, and now they'll just pace races at 13:05. Mm-hmm. People will just go for it.
It's not going to change.
I don't think there's anything necessarily wrong with that. I think there's still some improvements to be made to the ranking system that stops people from just going to Jerry Shoemaker races. And also, I don't see the point of encouraging people to go to the NASDAQ championships.
I like that.
In the Bahamas.
The Mazda championship?
Nothing against the Bahamas, I guess, is probably pretty sweet.
Yeah.
But the Mazda championship.
I don't think that does anything for the sport of track and field.
Well, what's crazy is I'm pretty sure they took away the thing that lets you get the automatic qualifier, and they took it away 2 days before the meet.
Oh, yeah. I was just talking to Joe about that, because actually Sean McGordy won in 29:30. Yeah. So no matter how many extra points he gets,
doesn't matter.
That's pretty pointless.
Yeah.
And it was supposed to be an auto A standard like Oceania is, right?
I think so.
And they took that away?
Yeah. I think so. But
that's rough for the bowel movement.
Yeah.
That's an unfortunate turn of events.
But yeah, no, I agree with both, what you guys are both saying. It's just, I get what they're trying to do, but I think in practice it's way too messy and way too complicated. Obviously, if you hit the standard, if you're in that top 15 in your event or whatever, easy. It doesn't matter. But everyone wants to have the way our sport works is you're trying to peak for world champs or whatever, and everyone wants to have the security of a standard, so then they know that they don't need to keep racing and they can prepare for world champs, because it's, if you think about it from that perspective, it's a bit of the rich get richer. The guys who can just knock off the standard easy, they get more time to properly prepare, whereas the guys that aren't sure have to keep doing these extra races, and then so they're gonna be slightly disadvantaged by just not as good preparation, you would think. And it's just the thought of just so many people coming from a rankings which you just can't be sure about. I think you would always feel nervous right up until that final day that like something might happen. Obviously, the rankings don't change that dramatically in general. But if you're on the edge, obviously it's going to be really nerve wracking, and so you would prefer a standard, I think, just to know that you have it. So I don't know. And then the other aspect, which we've talked about this multiple times as well, is then the meets that give you the most points. It's like political to get into those meets. You have to have like the agent with the connections and all this, and even our teammates who are crushing it, like Sage and Joe, both, they're not sure about getting into meets right now. Like Joe's not sure about getting into the Brussels 5K. He's run 13:04 twice this year, and he's not sure about getting into the Brussels 5K. Sage, who just soloed a 4:01 and is a 1:57 runner, isn't sure about getting into, I think it's the Brussels 1500. It's crazy. You just like, maybe if she like had a certain agent or whatever, you get in, but it's just like that side of it, when that comes into play, like that gets really messy as well. So the more they push for rankings, the more that stuff will potentially matter, which is not a great thing. But yeah, I get the utopic dreams that World Athletics have of a system which is fully based on rankings and there's more like interest in all these different meets and all that. But man, it's just in practice, it's pretty hard to
it's tough to pull off.
Work, so.
I think there's also, and maybe they've tried to get around this by having less performances required, but I think the difference between getting ranking points as a distance runner to either a sprinter or a field event person is huge.
It is.
Just because, and I realize that you only need 2 10K times and you only need 3 5K times as opposed to 5 in the other events, and I assume the field, but you can only run so many 5Ks a year. And some of these field event, and I love, I'm speaking most about Tom Walsh right now because I know some of his like travel plans from his last race or his last meet at Com Games. He went and did like 3 competitions in like 3 days.
Just busting them out.
Just because you can.
Yeah, it's different. It's so different.
But like we can't go run 3 5Ks in 3 days.
No.
And you can only run a few a season. And like me, when you're in the best shape of your life and you end up going to a big diamond league somewhere, but it's 35 degrees. So you basically throw that race out the window because it's impossible to run as fast as the time will let you. Yeah. And that's like the one, you can only run one of them in that 3-month window. And then that one's written off by conditions because distance events are affected more by conditions.
That's true. You definitely got to get lucky sometimes with that stuff. It's like the 10K and like the 5. Like, you got to get lucky. Some of the conditions.
I guess
timing.
That is a tough one. I guess they would just say that's where the points come into play, but it's not like, it's just messy, man. It's just like, it's not perfect, and it's not going to be perfect. I don't know. I just know it's just going to continually push people to run faster, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, that's a cool part of it for sure.
It is, it's going to push people forward in time. But like again, like that's another thing with the sport. Like hopefully people, like, because regular folks don't really know about time or care about time. They'll more be interested in the rivalry, right? So I think World Athletics knows that too, and they're trying to push people to not worry too much about time, but competing against each other for points to get the ranking up, to do blah, blah, blah. Because they know that if you're going to try and get people involved in the sport or excited or buy a ticket, from not buying a ticket, it'd be like, like a Jakob Whiteman showdown, or I think Mel and Keely Hodgkinson showdown, like have those rivalries to hopefully increase people's interest rather than, what time they ran or whatever. So, I mean, it's very tough. Like, it's just, I think it's just hard to perfect. And Morgan kind of mentioned the utopia of it, but they're definitely
maybe they need to
figure it out.
How in a lot of sports, the world champion isn't the person who won one world championship race. It's the person who's like got the most points at the end of the season. I guess maybe there's a Diamond League regular season champion and a Diamond League champion. Maybe there should be
that's what Ollie's going for right now.
That's what they have. Yeah.
But maybe there should be like a world champion and a regular season world champion.
Yeah.
To bring even more, like, because then it convinces, like, turn it into like a running league. Yeah, we don't need to get into that.
You know how I feel about that.
We already know.
People keep going, and then there'd be like it'd be like a world championship series.
Yeah,
with we already know Morgan's stance on that.
Yeah, I don't think I've actually talked about it on the podcast yet, which is kind of shocking, like the whole thing. But
we're gonna save it. We'll just know that there's something out there.
We'll save it for the fall.
We're saving it for episode 53.
We'll save it until we launch it.
Until we got the funding for the great idea to improve the sport, take it over, and destroy world athletics. Oops, I said it.
Oops.
So the other thing which was related to this news, I mean, this isn't actually related to the standards, but the news came out at the same time as they started mentioning the standards, was their new thing, which I think it starts in 2024, I believe. Their, how do you say the word, George? Repechage
rounds.
Dumbest fucking thing I've ever heard of.
Yeah, that's pretty fucking stupid.
So just who wants to explain how this works?
I'll explain it.
Wait, you know?
Oh, you go.
I'd actually love to hear Olli explain it.
So the fucking dumb rule is that if you run 1500 meter to 200 meters, there's an extra round. So usually for people that don't really know the qualification process at most championships, there's usually like a heat, semi, and a final. And you usually have time qualifiers that come out of those. Now, we've talked about our stance for the 5K time qualifiers and how stupid that is. That's not even affecting that because 5K is not involved in this. It's 1500 to 200 meters. They're adding in an extra round for the fastest losers, which is the people that don't qualify with an auto qualification, to go for another round to try and get into that final. Now, if you think about it, as a logical, normal human being, running another 1500, running another 800, running another 200 or 400 isn't going to be advantageous to you to make the final because you're going to be fucking cooked. Like, particularly in longer events. I think I shouldn't say it because I don't know much about sprints, but like potentially with 200, you might be able to get away with it a bit more. But imagine if you're a woman and you're a 158 woman, right? And you have to run these races that are like 158s, right? They're near your PR, and you just miss out on making it to the final, or you miss out in the heat. You have to run another round. You get to run another round to make it, but it's another 158. You're going to get to the final, and you're going to be like spent. You're not even going to be able to be competitive. It's the dumbest fucking thing that they've ever come up with. I think whoever decided to do that rule should be fired and should be kicked out of the sport, because that is just not helping anybody. It's not. And it's also creating a dangerous pretense that when you get into the heat and you think that you're not going to be ready for this, or like it's not working out your way, you can just slow down. You can run like a 3-minute 800 because you know you're going to get into another round later on.
Yeah,
and you can just go after it. Like, it's just going to change the way that heats are run. It's going to be stupid, and it's going to create more pressure for the athletes to qualify in a different way, or just back off completely and make the race look even more ridiculous. So World Athletics, congratulations. You've just fucking put another nail in the coffin. I personally think it's extremely stupid, but yeah, that's my take on it.
Will it be like top 3, next 3, and these 3 end up in the repechage?
No, there's no time. There's no time. At least in the first round, there's no time qualifiers. That's the thing.
No, but sure. So how do they? Is it just the next 2 people in each heat, or next 3 people in each heat?
No, everyone.
Every single person.
So this is one of the things that they said, which annoyed me, and they said this was like a good thing. They said everyone that competes at the championships
will run at least once.
We'll get to race at least twice.
So if you're in the 1500 and it's like top 5, or maybe it'll be top 6 go through to the next round, bottom 6 get to run again.
Yeah,
that is bullshit. Because then
it's fucking stupid.
If you know that the top 6 people are really good, you just slow down. You should just go run 5 minutes, 6 minutes.
Just go for a walk. Just go for a trot.
And then you also only have to run 3 rounds, really.
Exactly.
Dude, but that's the thing. Like,
you're getting top 6. No, but then
if you're trying to,
the next round, they won't be as good.
Yeah.
If you try to do fan engagement, can you imagine? Can you imagine the fan engagement? People turn up, like these kids turn up to watch these athletes, and they're like, "Why is that guy walking in this race? Why is he running slow like that? He's not even in with the field." And then they have to explain to the kids, "Oh, but he has another chance. This round doesn't matter. He can just go out here and have fun."
Isn't that
so stupid?
I thought it was like, all right, top 4 go through automatically. Next 4 get to run again. Bottom 4 don't get to run at all.
It's everyone. That's the crazy thing. And the thing
is, dumb, bro.
Obviously for us, we're pretty into it. The heats are entertaining in their own way. But at the end of the day, if you're a fan, like, I don't give a fuck about watching the heats really. And you've just added in a losers bracket, a losers heats dude, who the fuck, no offense to people that are in that, like maybe I'll be in one of them one day myself. I don't know, but who the fuck cares about watching that? Like, the problem isn't like, I don't know, like people just don't want to watch that. They want to watch the more exciting stuff. And you're just adding in more filler at a meet, which already has so much shitty filler.
It'll just be all the people that aren't it'll be all the people like not at the top either, because that's what people come to watch. In the entertainment.
The whole point of qualifying, bro. Like you go, like I mean, I went through it at Worlds. You go to the semi, you don't make it through, you're not through. You have to live with that and fucking move on. Whereas this thing is just like giving us like a safety net that nobody wants. Like you're in the sport to qualify to the final, and that is what you should focus on. And if you don't make it, you don't make it. But it seems now they're putting in a safety net, and it's just going to create a whole different environment in the spans of heats. It's just going to make it super weird. I don't even know how to it's going to react.
I know it's big in
when
rowing.
It actually happens.
And I think it's always been in rowing.
Yeah, I wonder
but I don't really know how it works, if it's the same, that you always get to row twice, no matter what.
Yeah, and rowing's different as well, because you can row more times. I'm not saying, if I'm explaining that well. Rowing doesn't have as much of a toll on your body.
Yeah, because it's not an impact.
As running a race does. And no disrespect to any of the athletes that are going to be finding themselves in these races. We're just more taking like a more critical stance on the system, which is just like, what are you guys thinking? So, I think we said our 2 cents on that. It's just weird to see.
I think we've just we've had our statement on that.
Seriously, like World Athletics, fucking ask someone before you decide to do something so stupid next time. Like,
they're all like a freaking. You have like people like, we're going to make like an F1 Drive to Survive. We're going to make like exciting stuff for the sport. There's big things coming, and then they release this, and you're thinking like, who the fuck is running this show? Is it a monkey? Like,
we got big plans. We got big plans to improve the sport. Here's one of them.
Yeah, Coffee Club's taking over.
The thing is, they do this every year because. And with the stuff they try and change with the Diamond League, like they do it 1 year, then they have to get rid of it. The jump off stuff, they're taking the 5K out, it just happens all the time. But so we could go on forever about that. But I think the final thing that we want to talk about today was an interesting topic that George brought up in the pre-show. Was he was asking about like how Mondo did at Europeans and how exciting it was, pretty much, because just kind of like getting onto the idea of, at some point when someone is too dominant, does it become less interesting? And if that is happening in certain events in our sport, like Mondo as a good example, or Sydney, McLaughlin, which is like a kind of a weird thing to think about, because obviously we all aspire to be like that. We would all obviously want to be as dominant as they are. But it is interesting when I know at Europeans, Mondo was jumping, and I think he had the gold secured like pretty easily. And then he just was like, oh, I'm done. And so it's like he's one of the biggest stars. And you would expect there to be a pretty good correlation between the biggest stars competing and the most exciting event happening, or the most exciting fan experience. But it doesn't necessarily always work that way. So we're just like...
Yeah. I think the person we've seen it in, we've talked about the most, was Sydney. And because there was that big announcement months ago that she was running her first ever Diamond League, or her first Diamond League in like 4 years or something.
Really?
Like she's just been breaking world records and winning worlds in Olympics, and then just not actually showing up to the Diamond Leagues or anything.
Mm-hmm.
No disrespect against Sydney. Probably like incredible athlete. She probably would win the 400 as well.
I would love to be doing what she does.
It's insane. But just thinking about the opportunity she has in the sport, like is that providing the best like entertainment for the sport?
100% no. 100% no. I think what Sydney does is fueled by financial incentives, and as an athlete, like obviously you got the big ones, you got the world champs, Olympics, you turn up for those. But for her, like a lot of the races she does, it's more of a financial thing for sure. I mean, it's domestic. She's probably getting great appearance fees. She doesn't have to travel very far. She knows that she doesn't have to do that many races to prove her dominance. And like, I think for her, it's definitely on, like, she has the incentives as an individual athlete and as a person making money in the sport, where it's a finite amount of time. She has the right to do that. However, for the 400 meter hurdles in general, having her, Femke Bol, having more of a rivalry there, she's definitely not making it good for entertainment purposes. She's making it worse because she's not turning up to these Diamond Leagues. She's not creating much more of an environment for people to go and see her in Europe, an international star racing a domestic star. And doesn't have that definite vibe. And speaking of like dominance in general, like with Mondo, I think it's also going to start to get boring, not just for people watching, but for him. Like he's just going to be winning all the time. He's like, I'm kind of getting bored. Like I'm not being challenged as much. But I think he did say in an interview, because they asked him that question. He said in the interview, he's like, you can always win again and you can always go higher. So that's his motivation and his goal, which is a great response by Mondo. But if you look at dominance, for example, in the 1500 meters, in my event with Jakob is the most dominant runner in the 1500 meters. No question about it. However, I believe that Jake winning the world championships was the best thing for that event. 100% the best thing, because it was entertaining. It was different. It was exciting. It was an upset, and it was depth. And it's also like, it's not surprising for the people that follow the 1500 meters, because Jake's always been there. He's always been around, and he has shown potential of potentially, medaling or doing something spectacular, and he did it. And it was just huge, the hype up, Jakob gets beaten, blah, blah, blah. And it was good, I think. I mean, Jakob wouldn't agree, obviously, but it's good because then Jakob goes in the 5K and wins, It creates this kind of like, there is a dominance in the 1500 by one man, but there is also a great bunch of athletes in the 1500 that could create an upset, could create, moments that you remember, like, I remember when I was in the stadium when Jake Whiteman became world champion and beat Jakob Ingebrigtsen, the Olympic gold medalist. Or I remember when Olli Hall ran Com Games and beat, the world champion and the former world. Like, there's stuff like that. There's races like that in the 15 in particular in this event right now that I think creates much more of a fan engagement, because they're seeing other athletes being able to achieve something and create much more excitement around like who's going to win. Because obviously you put your money on Jakob 100%, but people know there is a possibility that somebody else could come out and pull the win. When it comes to Mondo, when it comes to Sydney, I think when you guys think it in your head, it's like the only way that these people aren't going to win is if they are sick, they fall over a hurdle, or they just don't turn up. So I think personally, like, it's just 1500 meters entertaining, and it's definitely a huge event right now in the sport because of that factor. And I think if it was the same factor,
this is just totally unbiased.
No, I believe I am biased. No, I am biased. However, if you take what the 1500 meter has right now and you put it into pole vault, I think pole vault would be way more exciting. I agree with that, with the 400 hurdles, like, because there's more of a toss up, but there's still dominance. There's still someone dominating, but. That's just my opinion on it.
Who has more followers? Does Mondo or does Jakob, as our social media analyst?
Yeah, Jakob has more, I'm pretty sure.
I'm going to guess Jakob.
Really?
I would guess Jakob, just because thinking about how many more people are into distance running than pole vaulting. I mean,
I think Mondo's big though, isn't he?
Yeah, but
Sydney is like, oh yeah, true. I forgot about that.
Yeah, like
people still do love watching Mondo jump and love watching Sydney run. And
it is amazing.
They love watching Ryan Krause throw.
Amazing, yeah.
But it is true. Like, if Jakob has a bad race, he wins world champs. I mean, if Jakob has a bad race, he loses world champs. If Mondo has bad jump, he just does it again.
Yeah.
He just jumps over it the next time.
Yeah.
So Jakob has 438,000 followers. Mondo.
Can't believe you had to do research on this, Olli.
No, I'm pretty sure it's Mondo, but I'm just making sure. Why isn't Mondo's not coming up? There he is. Mondo. Oh, I am wrong. 442K. Mondo has 4K more.
They're like equal?
They're almost equal.
That's crazy. Wow, that really surprises me. But the thing with, not to sound like a broken record player, but the thing with this one as well is it's not like it's the athlete's fault at all. It's not at all, obviously.
No.
Like, it's not like you charge the athlete with the responsibility of making the sport interesting. Obviously, Bauman get a lot of shit for like the way they operate sometimes, but they're just trying to do the best that they can within the system that exists. And an interesting comparison that we were talking about earlier was F1, because we just went through a period where the Mercedes team, and F1's is a crazy example of this, where a team literally has a better car than the other people, so they're actually unbeatable. And Mercedes, I think, won 7 world titles in a row.
I think it was 9, wasn't it?
And individual.
So
yeah, and then it's more about like, what is the sport going to do to change that? Yeah. And they do. They changed it.
That's the crazy thing. In the last season of Drive to Survive, they had I don't know what his position is, but the CEO, let's say, of F1,
commissioner,
and he said literally, like, I want to make it so that Lewis doesn't win.
Yeah.
Like, isn't that crazy? Like, he said he wants to make it so that it doesn't work like that. Which
imagine if Sib Coe came on and was like, "I'm going to change the sport to make it so Mondo doesn't win."
It's so crazy, but then you think about the business side of it and the entertainment side of it, which really matters a lot, and you're like, oh, that actually makes a lot of sense. It's going to get boring, and it's not going to be successful if the same thing happens every time. So, I mean, we're just ragging on World Athletics in the end again.
Well, the thing is, World Athletics can't do anything about that. Like, they can't change a car. They could change hurdle height. They could change the pole that Mondo uses. But again, like, imagine if you're watching that, it's unfair. It's unfair. It's still unfair because they should be jumping the same hurdle. You know, morally, I think it's should be on the same thing.
It's just a pretty fundamental issue with track and field, and it's why track and field just naturally doesn't lend itself to be as interesting as a lot of different sports, which have more malleable aspects to them in terms of like the rules and stuff. Like, how can you change track and field? I mean, we'll talk about some ideas we have at some point, but in the track and field itself, pretty hard to change. And then they do these trivial things sometimes, like the handicap races and stuff, which are pretty big in Australia. And they're actually very exciting. So they do kind of work, but they also don't work because it's never going to replace the sport in the way that in a different sport they can just change the rules year to year, and it's like, okay, well, this is how the sport works now. It just changed, and most other sports are able to do that, and it is necessary to do that to keep up, like in this day and age, from a business entertainment standpoint, because things are constantly changing, and track and field just doesn't have that dynamicism or whatever it needs, which is probably why. I mean, I don't know what the stats are, but I'm going to guess like track and field is getting less popular consistently relative to other sports. I'm not sure on that.
I think in Europe it's bigger than it has been.
I just mean like
I think Europeans are dominating.
I don't know though. I don't know.
The trend I think in the US
as quickly as some sports.
Yeah.
Yeah. The US, I think in particular, it's not as trendy as I thought it would be. Like high school and like high school is pretty big and college, but you'd think pro running, particularly with America are the world champion team. So you'd expect them to be like, they're world championship teams. You expect them to throw a lot of money into the sports track and field because they rewarded themselves with a $200,000 check for setting up that event. But yeah, like it's still, I think it's still not as big as it should be. I think there's like so much talent in the US and so many amazing athletes that you would expect it to be bigger than what it actually is.
It's just so different to other sports because imagine if track and field didn't have the participation numbers that it has, and maybe that is probably what keeps it alive. Is I think maybe in participation it might be getting more popular, and that'll funnel through to the pro side. But imagine if it was like a different sport where like the participation doesn't matter at all. It's not like for F1, the participation of people driving cars.
That's what's crazy
at all for the sport.
None of the fans drive cars. Like none of the fans are racing drivers, or at least very few.
Yeah, like it doesn't matter. Whereas track and field is very lucky that it's such a good sport for like youth to do.
And that seems like there's such an opportunity. Every single person who's watching it probably does this sport, and yet we can't make it more interesting.
Yeah, they have their own personal connection to it.
We're going to rag on it today, and then we're going to be back with suggestions.
We'll bring the answers. We'll bring the solutions. But, So, we just thought that was like kind of like an interesting, thought-provoking thing, just something that we were chatting about in our day-to-day life. Just, that's the type of shit that we talk about when we get bored, making the sport better. So I think it's probably a pretty good time to wrap it up. Ollie's got 10 minutes to get ready to get on his bus. But
probably miss it, but we'll see.
Good. Your race is tomorrow, huh, Ollie? Good luck.
Tomorrow night. Yeah. Thanks, boys. Will I see you before you go to Rovereto?
Yeah. We'll be here.
Okay.
We'll be here.
I'll save my good lucks for you guys till then.
Cheers. So. Well, thank you everyone for listening to episode 49. We'll see you guys next week.